This episode of the Better To podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and M.Needom, author of the Better To Burn Out series. Today, I would like to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite places, Synergy Collective, a bohemian lifestyle brand curating wellness for the mind, body, home, and soul. Located in the heart of the Midwest, Rockford, Illinois. Inside the storefront and online, you'll find a beautiful selection of crystals and metaphysical tools, boho apparel and accessories, sustainable home and beauty items, books, candles, and other unique gifts. They also offer a variety of community events, classes, and workshops in their Rockford location, including some select classes that are taught by me. So I invite you to explore the collective at www.shopsynergycollective.com and use code BETTER215 at checkout for 15% off your first online purchase. Welcome to the Better To podcast with M.Needom. I'm your host, Donna. Today, I sit down with guest Dave Lebental. Dave has a story of how 27 years ago, he decided that he couldn't pursue his dream, that his dream was not affording him the security he needed for his now growing family. So he walked away. But now, after all that time, he's now able to hold his dream in his hand. And I'm not talking a family. I'm talking his musical dream. So tune in. Hey, Donna from the Better To podcast here. If you've listened to my show, you know that it always sounds great. That's thanks to the guys at Third Ear Audio Productions. Third Ear Audio helps podcasters, broadcasters, musicians, and business owners get their important messages out to their audience. Rich and the Third Ear Audio team are easy to work with. They're efficient and understand that your message is important to you. With quick turnaround and the true caring of your needs, Third Ear Audio is your go-to for any audio message. Reach out to Third Ear Audio at 312-388-5596. Rich and his team will deliver for you. That's 312-388-5596, or you could email them at info@thirdearaudio.com or visit them on the web at www.thirdearaudio.com. Hi, Dave. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Donna. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm going to dive right in. You, from what I read about you, you used to be a performer back in the 90s on the LA club scene. You were pursuing music, and then you decided to take a 27-year hiatus.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's pretty right.
So what made you say one day, you know what? I'm tired of chasing my musical dream. I'm just going to throw in the towel, and that's it.
Yeah, well, although a few good things were happening for me on the scene, like there was no pathway, clear pathway. It was like a forest, and you're sort of walking off the trail. So although I always harbored the dream, I mean, yeah, I couldn't tell if I was going north, south, east, or west. And my longtime girlfriend, who had become my wife, well, we were expecting child, and we were living on crumbs, and so it really wasn't a tough decision, honestly. You look back on it and you go, well, you did have some good stuff going on. I just played with Mick Taylor, formerly of the Stones, and he just invited me to do some West Coast dates, but the musicians I'm playing with, their lives were crumbling too. So the whole thing was like held together with, less than bubble gum and paper clips. So
What? Go ahead.
I don't play poker, but once in a while I get invited to poker games with some of my buddies, and they'll joke at me, like, really, you were chasing this pot with like a 2 and an 8 unsuited. Well, that's what it would have been.
But that's the thing. Sometimes when we pursue those dreams, we go all in and we don't look at the bigger picture. We're like, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to make it. And the thing is, sometimes life gets in the way. I remember. Okay, so yeah, I was in a band, and I was hell bent. My friend and I were moving to Dallas. We were gonna get a band going. We were gonna do everything that we need to do. All right, fine. And I went to a fortune teller, a card reader. We were doing it for giggles and grins, and She tells me, she's like, I said, so am I going to travel the world and be this big rock star? And she goes, I see you with two kids. And I'm like, what? I'm 19. This is like not even no, I'm not dating anybody. Where's this coming from? She's like, nope, I see you with two kids. And I'm just like, okay. Fast forward, I meet somebody and he's got two kids. Yeah. So lo and behold, there you go with, well, bye bye. There goes that dream. So I get it. I get it because it's like it's not sustainable. You can't sustain it when you're unless you have unless you have already got a foot in the door and you have money rolling in, you have to think of your kid. I get it. And your
I
wife
think
and
so.
your family.
And in truth, I'd been pursuing that dream for a number of years. So I had given it a fair chance. And looking back, I was like a AAA baseball player. I had gone pretty far. I'd opened up for, geez, 20 something, you know, f famous musicians, and had a lot of good experiences and played all the best clubs. So it wasn't like I got stomped on before I even got a moment. I'd had my moment, but the game clock had elapsed. And
Fair enough.
I have a song on the new album. It's called "The Next Train Out of Town," and it's about a guy. And when people ask me about the song, I kind of explain it this way. It's about a guy that had his own sort of independent things in his life that he really liked, and he just wanted to see places. He didn't want to just settle down and be that guy. And the song's a little on the sad side because the song sort of details how that crushed his relationships with his wife and his family and other people. That when you do sort of take that totally selfish angle, to satisfy what it is that is in your inner soul, sometimes it comes with consequences to the people closest to you.
Very much so. Very
And
much
it's
so.
not a black and white issue, is it? Because you could clearly say a person has to follow their heart. Sometimes when you follow your heart, it's a tangled web we live.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I'll be honest, so I ended up marrying the guy with the two kids, and I had a friend. We were living in a small town in Indiana, and she comes over and she's like, "You're meant for bigger things than this." And I wasn't happy in my marriage. I loved my kids. I loved my kids, but my husband, that's a whole other story. And I had to make the choice of, do I stay in a marriage where I'm not happy, where I love my kids and I sacrifice being for them, or do I pursue other things for me? Like you said, pursuing your soul. And I never wanted to be one of those people that hurt the kids. I did not want to be that because I was a child of divorce and I knew they'd already been through one. This was going to be devastating because I was their mom. They called me mom, but I ultimately had to do what was best for me. And that's the hard thing to do. It really is. And I
I
don't,
can imagine that was a tough crossroads you reached right there.
mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it probably crossed your mind that if, there reaches a point where, kids are, maybe it's for some kids in their just early teens or just preteens, but they can sense when there's something loveless going on between mom and dad. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you would have looked away from, uh, you know, your heart at that moment, there's no telling if they would have sensed that, and that could have had the long-term impact on them feeling like, hey, this is a loveless institution, marriage.
Well,
We've seen two examples of it in our life.
yeah, I mean, their real mom, she's been married for over 25 years, and my second marriage lasted a long time. My second marriage lasted 16. So they've seen examples, but the youngest one, she's gone through two marriages. So, I mean, and I think that's one thing we don't look at. We don't look at why do we have that wanderlust? I mean, when I left, the kids were 8 and 10, and it was kind of like, well, pretty soon they're not going to need me. They're going to be teenagers. They're not going to need me around as much. And where do I fit in then? Because then when they start hitting that teenage year, they're going to look at me and go, "You're not my mother." Well, that's true. Even though I've been raising you consistently for 4 years, that's fine. but and I just for me it was just like that was the crossroads. It was kind of like, am I going to be needed or do I need to move on? And I think that's something that we don't, and it's the same thing with being the musician, because if you keep running over the same path, you think there is no path of advancement. Corporate America, do you leave a job at corporate America because there's no path of advancement? A lot of the times you do. So it's the same thing. It's just we look at it differently because they're all similar scenarios, but we look at them differently because one is the emotional heart and the soul, music, i.e., kids, and the other one's just a job.
Amen, sister.
Not to go, I didn't mean to dive deep, but it's like it's one of those things where we don't look at those things, and I think I applaud you for actually having enough. I don't. It's going to sound really awkward, but enough respect for you and your family at that time to say, you know what, I love doing this, but I got to be a realist.
You know, it it hurt, and I didn't know it till years later, but I think there was a few years there at least where I was kind of a little discouraged about, you know,
Done doing it right.
having to fold my hand and everything. But fast forward 27
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
hey, I'm
yeah,
still here, and music never left. And honestly, I think that who I was at that age, when I did fold my hand or whatever, um, I think a lot of the self-destructive things that are available, for successful musicians, I don't think I would have stood up very well against those temptations. So um, here I am, and I'm getting to pursue the dream, getting a second chance at this. But the scope of the dream has changed. I no longer seek fame, or I no longer seek fortune. I just seek being an artist and releasing my music and having opportunities like this to talk to people like you and to exist as a small sort of, underground artist that is putting out music and songs that people can enjoy. And that's enough, man. That's enough for me, because really my true love is of those elements. And the other stuff, that's a young man's
Exactly.
fancy.
Exactly. I mean, when we're younger, we crave that attention. We crave the success. We crave that I want to be a household name. And I remember somebody telling me, well, everybody wants to be famous. And I'm like, no, I know people that don't want to be famous. But fame has its all those trappings. And then are you really in charge of your own life at a certain point? I mean, I look
Oh,
back, you were saying you looked back and you're like, well, did I do the right, did I do the right thing those first couple of years? And I did the same thing. I mean, it's like, did I do the right thing? Well, I still talk to one of my kids. She's almost 40. So I did the right thing for me, and I've experienced a better life than I would have. And I think if you can look back and look at your life and say, okay, I'm doing what I love now. I'm not chasing the dream. I don't have the potential to fall into all the trappings, but I get to do something I love and I get to bring joy to somebody. I think that is a gift all in itself.
hey, when you said that, I'm not chasing the dream. You know what came into my mind?
What?
I agreed with you. I'm fulfilling the dream.
There you
I'm
go.
no longer chasing it. I'm fulfilling it. This is the dream, to have this conversation with you, to have this album out. I just played in front of one of the biggest crowds I've played in ever, even back in my prime, for the LA album release party at the Whiskey a Go-Go. We had 200
Nice.
people there.
Nice.
200 people.
Nice.
Filled up the place. It was fantastic. It's like I'm pinching myself. Really? I get this moment? Thank you.
And I
More than
mean,
I could have expected, honestly, really.
well, and here's the thing, and this is the thing. When you look at that statement there, more than I could expect it, you're looking at that. And when you think about you as a younger person, you most likely would have sat there, not for sure, but as in the younger person's mindset, you're like, damn it, there's only 200 people here. I could have done better. This should have been bigger. I mean, that the egocentric mind will.
You are so right, Donna. Almost every good thing that ever happened to me when I was playing when I was younger, I always looked at it like, okay, that was cool. Hopefully this will launch us to here.
Mhm.
Then you'd get to that. Hopefully this will stair step us here. And one of the things I tell myself now as the older guy is like, no, this is it. You're going to enjoy this moment now because this is the fine moment. There is no better moment. This interview right here with you, this is a great moment. And I'm enjoying it. And I let myself enjoy it now.
Yeah.
I let myself enjoy it now. And honestly, do I think that it could, maybe be a finer moment for me tomorrow? Probably not, but that's
But
okay too. And if it comes along, that's okay too. But the thing is like having some gratitude and appreciation for the good things that occur. That's, that makes you happy.
but I think
And
that comes with maturity.
yeah, it does. It does. And like I said, I'm just so happy to be able to having this sort of second opportunity as an empty nester to release music and play shows and talk about the art of writing and recording. I'm thrilled, man. This is cool.
So
This is the dream.
then we have to look at this. So when you were out back in the day, the biggest thing that was coming around that we were just starting to see Napster. It quite hadn't hit yet, I don't think. I think it was a couple of years out, but we hadn't fully embraced the technology. And now, even recording, because I mean, I was in radio in '93 and I was in radio in '95. In '93, I still got to pick everything. And when I went to a bigger station in New Orleans, I got to pick nothing. Everything was computerized, which went back to the payola thing, because if the DJ is not picking anything, somebody's getting a payola thing to program the station. But that's beside the point. So now we have a whole different avenue, and this is where because I'm an author, so this is where that caveat of that fine line of you're making music, you're creating your art, creating a book, whatever. You have these avenues now that you didn't have 27 years ago. You're able to get your music to the masses that you couldn't have touched before because you were only in California at that time. And maybe somebody might have heard something and took a tape or something else. But my whole point is, so now we have this gracious technology that's awesome and wonderful. But in the same breath, you're back to the same thing of we're paying you chump change to do that. And so you have to be careful about how much you expenditures. Because I talked to an Australian musician yesterday. She's a singer over in Oz. She's a country singer, and she's had number ones over there, and she's trying to break over here. And she's talking about spending $5,000 for a single, and then Spotify not paying. So there's still that whole avenue of you're putting money out to make your art, and you're still not
Yeah.
necessarily, unless if you're doing it because you love it and that's all. And that's the same thing I tell most writers. If you're writing a book because you love it, then do it. Otherwise, if you're expecting fame, guts, and glory, hold off.
Yeah, trying to monetize any of the arts is a tough, tough go. That's tough sledding. Whether you're a musician, a writer, an actor, a sculptor, a painter, a
Mm-hmm.
poet, just trying to monetize the arts. It's really, it, it's tough going. And um, the artist that you were talking that you just mentioned, you know, the fact that she's had some type of number one records in Australia, I hope she's enjoying that and appreciating that. It's natural to want to try to, as gamblers say, parlay that into success in America.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, there's nothing lives without some type of, budget or parameters.
Right.
But, I think that I think that for me, I'm doing things on a with small budgets. I'm comfortable with that. My day job is not looking to quit it.
Yeah.
It's given me enough jump change to
To continue.
do some recordings and make some videos and stuff. And but as you mentioned, Spotify and the equation now of how they pay small artists is all artists really. It's unfair, and
Mhm.
it shouldn't have gone down like this. But from what I read and understand, the record industry, the music people, they've been like slow adapters to the change and what could happen from Napster forward to that was file sharing into the
Yeah.
world of streaming. They cut these deals that they thought this was ancillary income. They didn't think that this was going to be the primary income, and now they're trying to what can I say? The music industry itself, the labels and whatever, they've been pretty unimpressive in my lifetime. I'm not impressed with them. As a kid growing up in the 70s, I loved the output. I thought it was great, but something changed somewhere along the line. I would probably target it like 83, 84. Once MTV came in, the whole music industry kind of got shittier.
Well,
There's that bad language.
that's fine. um, well, I was listening to somebody. Nikki Six had shared some bodies post, and the guy was talking about if you're an artist and you're trying to get a music deal, you better have a following because they don't care if you can play. They don't care if you've ever performed live. They want the followers on TikTok or Instagram because that's going to get you a contract because they know that they have a built-in following already, which is sad because it's like I could create something, and well, it's the same thing with you can auto tune anybody now. It's like you don't have to have the talent anymore. We can just throw money at you, sign you, and oh, you're going to get people in the seats. And that's the same thing I know about the LA club scene. You better be able to get people in the seats to be able to book a gig. Otherwise, you're not playing the club.
Well, about the record companies, and they're trying to monetize, so they're not about cultivation of artists anymore, and it's been a long time since they were. So without being disrespectful, I kind of ignore them because they bore me. They're boring. You get to a certain point, and you're like, all they're trying to do is rake in some cash. That's not about art. They're
Well,
boring.
what? Go
As
ahead.
far as clubs go, you know, uh, I I see it both ways now. As a younger guy, I didn't. I only saw it from the artist perspective, but I noticed a few of the bands that were on the bill with me the other night at the whiskey. They drew like 6 or 7 people. Now, how can a club stay in business if the artist can only draw 6 or 7 people? I mean, yeah, everybody thinks, if I could just get the opening slot for so and so, everybody'd see how great I am. And then but honestly, if no, it's unfair on the club, is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I didn't see that way when I was younger, and it's a tough slog. But hey, man, the club's got to pay the cost of operation and pay the bartender and the bouncers and the sound guy and the monitor guy and the light guy and the ticket booth person and the janitorial service and the insurance, blah, blah,
There they
blah.
go. The large insurance policy and the dram shop
Yeah.
coverage. And
I mean,
yeah.
so you know what? That's the thing, it's interesting, coming around at my age and doing this. Everything's way more comfortable, way more chill. struggling against those kind of things like, hey, I wish they should, put me on a national tour. I'm not going to sell any tickets for people when we pull into Little Rock. I mean, I'd be the beneficiary of a lot, but hey, that's kind of unilateral. So I think it's about, you know, trying to be comfortable in your own um, skin. So let's say you are an artist and you're just starting out, and I'll use my city here, Los Angeles, as an example. And let's say you can draw 7 or 8 people. There are rooms in this town that are made for bands that draw 7 or 8 people. Play there. And you know what? The room's going to look pretty full, and you're going to have a good experience. And maybe you can make a couple fans that night, and then next time you're going to draw 10 people.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you can draw enough people for that next size room, play the next size room. Don't buy shoes too big to grow into, because you'll get blisters.
I think part of it is we have become, and this started, I guess, in the 80s, and as technology has grown, we've become an instant gratification society.
You're right.
And so we want that. We think we're going to go to 0 to 60. It's an overnight success. Everybody's an overnight success. And when you were talking about the record companies, I have to laugh because, oh, we got CDs out. Yeah, CDs are going to be the next big thing. Vinyl, that's crap. Just get rid of the vinyl. And then we're going to do streaming stuff. Oh, wait, everybody wants vinyl again. I still have my vinyl from the 80s. So in the 80s and 90s, I still have my vinyl. But it's like I look at the record that I paid $7 for, and now it's like 25.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the same record. I understand cost inflation and all that stuff, but it just amazes me. It's like, really? Because even in used, it's still expensive. You go to like Half Price Books, they sell records and everything. And yeah, it's like 15 to $20 depending on the record.
Donna, I mean, I don't want to beleaguer the point to you, but the record companies themselves have been very unimpressive.
Mm-hmm.
And when you consider that, creating and marketing music is supposed to be their core competency. Whew.
No.
I'll let their track record speak for themselves.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the thing that I think a lot of people miss, younger people, it's like, your thought process when you were younger and you want to be a singer and you want to be a musician, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to write a song. I'm going to go in the studio. I'm going to put it out. And the record company, same thing with authors. I'm going to write a book, and the publishing company, they'll market me. That used to be true. That they would market the hell out of you.
Different business model.
But the fact is, nowadays, they may help you market a little bit, but you're going to have to do most of the marketing. And the bigger issue is they're going to try to create a narrative for you. They're going to try to create an image for you. So you can choose to be authentically you, and you can choose to write and create your music that you want. Because I've talked to people on The Voice, and they've talked about this. And the fact is, you can either be the master of your own ship, or you can choose to have them package you.
Well, I mean, to some extent, there were always prepackaged artists, even in the 60s
Mm-hmm.
and the 70s. I remember growing up, and there was prepackaged stuff. But honestly, we could always see, as teenagers, we could always see between what was,
Yeah.
artificial and what was real, and really excited us. So yeah, everybody's just doing their own thing, and when you put people that their core competency is in marketing, into making creative music decisions, you're asking your plumber to do your roof.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right.
But hey, I time with you is precious, and I hate giving them this much of our time.
No,
because
that's fine.
They're not the story, man.
No,
They've never been the story.
The story is
they're the F-ups.
Yeah. Life of a long player. That's the story. So I know why you chose the name. I mean, it's obvious why you chose the name, because that has been your, I mean, I'm sure you, during that 27 years, you did not put the guitar down and say, or quit writing music. You just didn't say, okay, I'm not touching any of it. Because as a creative, I know that you have to keep that connection going. Otherwise, you start getting antsy.
Plus, I wanted music in the house for the kids.
Yeah.
They wanted music. Dad, play that song again on piano. Dad, play it. How do you do this guitar thing? Dad, I like trumpet. Dad, it's like we had music in the house for the kids, so that was nice, and doing it on a heartfelt basis, and trying to show them how to play a little bit. That was cool. I enjoyed that, and if if music and being an instrumentalist is something that you connect with, one of the great things about music is you don't have to put it down. No. If you're an athlete and you like a football player, at some point in time you just can't put on the pads anymore and crack each other. It's just your body, you age out of it, and that's the same for a lot of sports. One of the nice things that music offers you is it can offer you a lifetime of enjoyment and happiness with your instrument. And, some things change with your voice. You get a little older, and the timbre of your voice will change.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But really, this is something that music can give, and you can become a long player.
I think the only athlete that really didn't, he's not really an athlete, but I think the only person that I can think of that was a hardcore athlete that didn't give up was Evel Knievel. No matter what kind of punishment he did to his body, he would just get back on that damn bike and off he went.
Man. Man.
There's a name nobody knows. Evil who?
Yeah. I remember him as a kid, man. He trying to jump the Snake Canyon.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And then had his own little toys. But anyway, so Monique, who's that about?
I wrote the song in first person because I felt like the story would be better communicated as first person, but it's a buddy of mine, and he would sort of confide in me. He's like, hey, I'm crazy about her, and sometimes she gives me the feeling like she's into me, and other times she doesn't. The thing I like about the song, though, was he had this like self-confidence that, oh, she'll eventually see the light. She's eventually gonna fall in love with me. And I thought that was the most interesting part, because you could see that she was, he's okay. What was that movie? He's Not That Into You.
Yeah.
You could see that was the story, but he was 100% convinced, I am going to wear her down until she sees the full value of my proposition. That I thought was the story, and that was sort of the angle I took with the lyrics and the narrative on Monique.
And did he ever wear her down?
He did not. She, in fact, she ended up breaking his heart. They did end up eventually. He got. I'll give him. He got 3/4 of the way there to the point where they were living together. But then bad things occurred, which I won't go into.
No, but I mean,
his heart was broken. But that wasn't the story. I think the reason why I wrote the song and the story was there was something so explorative about the heart of one or other person in a romance, that like they're so sure they're gonna, she's the one for me, and eventually she will see this too. And if you listen to the song, his optimism is shining through. Yeah, you're sending me away, and you called me here today, and you're giving me heart, but don't worry, because I know you're going to see the value in me. His big line in the song is, once you've had the best, there's no need for the rest. And, he's just so
I've heard that line before.
Yeah, he's so convinced. So I thought that, sure, if we just isolate the story to him and her, he lost. But that's not really the bigger story. The
No.
bigger story is how our heart and our self-confidence can propel us to, you know, to try to overcome the obstacles and the odds.
But did he really lose? I mean, let's stop here for 1 second. Did he
Yeah,
really lose? Because they ended up living together. Granted,
he
it blew
did.
up
No, I would
spectacular.
argue, I think you're right. He won and he took it as far as that romance was gonna go. So no, you're right. He did not lose. Eventually,
Yeah, but
her marginal interest
it's
played
fine.
out in other directions.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, so it's like one of those things when you know something. I knew I was going to go to Live Aid. Okay, I didn't have tickets, but I knew without a doubt I wanted to go to Live Aid so bad. And then the local radio station offered a contest. And my friend and I had to stay up and listen to how many times they played Susudio. And then you had to be the first or ninth caller. So this was the weekend from hell. And we did it. And the funny thing is, the Saturday, while we're still listening, this girl across the street comes running out. I was babysitting and I'm with my friend. And this girl comes out. She's like, "We just won Rick Springfield tickets." I'm like, mm-hmm. And she runs back to another neighbor's house. And my friend and I look at each other and we die laughing. We're like, we're going to Live Aid. We still had to get to Monday, but we're so sure. And yeah, we got to go. So
well
sometimes I think
done.
that intent
That
can
was up in
really,
Philly, right?
yep. Got to see I got crushed during Led Zeppelin, but that's beside the point. Yeah, it was in Philly and it was an interesting show. And it's one of those things that I'm like, yeah, that was one of those that moment you could manifest because I wanted that so bad and I made it happen. Maybe it was intention, I don't know, because I was living in Shreveport. For them to give away 2 trips, it was actually, so there's 2 callers and they got to bring a friend. But to be able to do that, and yeah, I'm sure the record company or somebody had done gave that permission, but still, it was just one of those things like, wow, okay. So yeah, intention.
Nice
Intention.
moment.
Yeah, it was. It was, and there was a lot of acts. So where are you going to be playing, or where are you going to be playing next? Are you still going to be playing clubs, or are you just not going to do live? What are you going to do?
No, I like playing live, and my band, the Driftwood Souls, we just finished our date in Los Angeles, so we're going to be playing up in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area coming up in the coming months. Also be playing in South Orange County and San Diego, and through social media, I've developed a very large following in South America, specifically in Argentina and Brazil. They're sharing me. They're just passing me around, and it's fantastic. So to reach out to them, I will be doing some live streaming shows for the South American audience coming up, um, and I'm looking forward to that as well.
I had a guy who was in Detroit and he went down to Brazil. He was a musician. He went to Georgia and then went to Brazil. And they love Lionel Richie down there. And he always wanted to sing, but he never had the opportunity. So he was creating beats as a producer and everything. So when he moved down there, he started singing and yeah, they ate it up. But so I don't know if he's still down there, but he was developing artists down there as well as his own stuff. But yeah, he's like, they love Lionel Richie in Brazil. Can't explain it, but they love him.
You know, it's interesting through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. It's interesting that you kind of hit on it earlier. It's a new world,
Mhm.
and um, it for me, I find it exciting and gratifying when people uh, hit like it or subscribe to my channel and so on and so forth. And I also find it sort of fascinating that people in France or Argentina or Eastern Europe or Japan or wherever, non-English speaking countries, that they'll enjoy the music and they'll enjoy what I'm doing and communicate. And it's nice when they communicate back to you.
Mhm.
It takes me, at this point, it takes me an hour every day
Yeah.
responding to all of the people that did sharing and sending me message and stuff. And I love it. I remind myself, hey man, this is why you put the music out. Because that's kind of an interesting topic in and of itself, Donna, which is okay, your kids grew up, you got a chance to reconnect and write some new songs and record and produce them. Did you need to put them out? I mean, why? You're not trying to make money. You're not trying to be famous. What's the deal? And to me, the deal was I'll go back to the analogy of other arts like painting. It's sort of unfulfilling to finish your painting and then stick it up in your attic. You need to share your painting. Maybe you don't need to share your painting with everybody in the world, but you need it to share your painting and and make it so other people can see it and interpret it and have a shared experience. Now, maybe not everybody feels that way, but I did feel that way. I felt there was something very unsatisfying about creating music and not having a shared experience with it. So now that I'm having a shared experience with it, I enjoy it. It's cool, man. But the stuff people have to say about it is really heartwarming, and it's why I do it,
Well,
and it's really cool.
that's the thing. As
Uh,
a creative, any art that you do, whether it's music, writing, painting, whatever, it you want that emotional connection. You want, and it's not about necessarily the feedback, but you want that emotional connection. When you get that feedback that somebody really appreciates what you've done, it you connect with it. There was a big snafu on TikTok about writers reading their reviews, and they were like, the review is for the readers, but you don't understand that review or those people telling you how they like your music, that motivates you, that gives you inspiration, that somebody actually you're making that connection.
well said. It really does. Artists, I think by nature, are sensitive people, and so when somebody has something nice to say, we probably as a group get a little higher than maybe
Mm-hmm.
non-sensitive people do. Also, though, when you put your stuff out there, it's no longer yours.
Mm-mm.
And some people are going to go, hey, I don't like this. You suck, or you're derivative, or, we've heard this before, or God, we hoped we'd never hear it again.
Yeah.
That's out there too. So, and you got to take that with a grain of salt. It hasn't happened a lot, but a couple of times I've had troll comments, and I'm going through a little training because social media wasn't what I was participating in until I started doing it. Okay, I get it. These are what I heard about. These are the troll guys.
Mm-hmm.
You hit hide it or dismiss.
Yeah.
Bye. But honestly, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and one flavor doesn't satisfy all, and I get that. And there's stuff that's really popular that I think just sucks. So hey, I get it, man. And that when you're the artist and you put out your screenplay, or you put out your book, in your case, or I put out my music, that's when you let go, because some people are going to like it, some people aren't going to like it. And
Yeah.
and that's the price you pay to connect with the person that will like it.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think it's totally understandable, and it's a fair price to pay to get to find those like-minded individuals that share your taste buds and share your artistic vision. Um, but don't think that you're gonna walk out of this prize fight without taking some punches.
Oh no, no. And I mean,
Everybody's gonna wear a few.
when you were talking about, reaching around the world, when I got my recap from Spotify this year, I mean, I've known since I started the podcast about 4 years ago, I have a German contingent. I took an 8 month hiatus, and my last episode, they kept liking, they kept going back to listen to it again because it was like, because I kept seeing the numbers go up, and it was in Germany, and I'm like, okay, guys, no, there's no new episode, but they are always there to hit my episodes right off the bat, and I appreciate that. And it's nice to know. But when you look at the bigger picture, because I'm not making any money doing this, I enjoy talking to people and I get to talk to some really cool, interesting people. But knowing that I'm connecting with people around the world. And like yesterday, I got to talk to somebody from Australia. I've talked to somebody who lived in Japan. I talked to somebody last week who was in England, and he had worked with the Pythons at one point. So I mean, it's like getting to talk to different people from different backgrounds. I got to talk to a neuroscientist. I mean, and I'm talking to you today. And so there's just a diverse dynamic with the capability of having Zoom, and either even being a musician for you, you get to talk to different people from around the world by doing this. So I mean, it's brought us closer together. As much as there's a great divide in the world, it's also brought a lot of us closer together.
I agree 100%. And I'm gonna say one other thing. You're living the dream. This was the dream. The dream was that you could have conversations with interesting people and have it, broadcast throughout the world. And, you know, the fact that you're not making a lot of money doing it, in my opinion, that's one of the good things about it, because nobody ever paid anybody anything without expectations and manipulations,
I,
honestly.
I mean, I'm fortunate. The music I have is from a local band, and they work with my sound guy who does all his work for free. So I mean, the musicians waive the licensing fee on the music. So I have a good team in place they understand you're not making any money. Yes, I have some ads, but the ads for my sound guy and for my books. It's not that I'm sitting there going to advertise. I'm not advertising. I wish I could, but I'm not at this point. So
Yeah,
it's
you're an
like,
artist
yeah,
in what you're doing, both as
yeah.
an author and as a podcast creative.
Hmm.
And
You do what you
you
got to
know,
do. Yeah.
uh, there's something beautiful about that, and there's something terrific about the freedom that you get, that you're experiencing, being your own producer and being
Hmm.
able to determine which guests that you want to have on and how you want to conduct these interviews and how you want to do it. And people take that for granted until the day that suddenly they're under someone's thumb.
Yeah. I mean, there's been people I have turned down, and there's
Mhm.
been podcasts that I've recorded that after it was said and done, I didn't air. And
Yeah.
that gives you the ability, and just like you're getting to create the music you want. You don't have somebody, because that's one thing that one of the people from The Voice told me. His coach said, you don't want to win this. If you win this, they're going to tell you what kind of music you need to play. They're going to mold you. And that's the thing. You're doing, just like you're telling me I'm living my dream. You're living your dream because you get to create the music you want to create. You don't have somebody say, that's not in style right now. You need to change your image, and you need to do this, and you need to go here. And okay, but you already have the social media stuff built. So
You're 100% right. And it's okay. It's okay if somebody doesn't like you. If you have created something that you like and you stand by and you feel is a good representation of you. When you turn over the keys to the kingdom to some marketing person that dresses you up like somebody you aren't, that has you playing music that you're questioning, and then people don't like you, that's the worst of both worlds, because it's not even you they don't like. At least at least if you get to present your own vision and somebody says they don't like you, you can look at them and go, fine,
mhm.
whatever, man.
Yeah. I mean,
But
go ahead.
yeah, but I think you know, it's it's one thing about being a little bit of an older artist that I was like, I know what I want to be presenting, and I know what music excites me. I know what type of lyrics fascinate me, and and that's what I want to write, arrange, produce, record, release, perform live. And I can give myself some expansive territory, which I do because my music is kind of a blend between mellow rock, blues, and Americana country. And so I touch on a little of each. And I can give myself a little bit more latitude than, maybe some marketing guy who'd want me to, hey, write me 9 more of these.
Yeah.
That's the old line, right?
Yeah.
I want 9 that sound just like this. Funny thing is, take a look at all the albums that you really love. Do all 9 songs sound the same? Do all 10
No.
songs? No, they don't. But that's what happens when you get a marketing guy making creative decisions.
I had a conversation because this very first podcast of the season was with the band who's doing the music now. And my sound guy said something, and I'm like, yeah, like the outfield, every song sounds the same. And he's like, the outfield doesn't sound the same. And I'm like, yeah, they do. The stuff I've heard, every single that they had sounded identical. And he's like, yeah, but they don't. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna argue. I won't argue.
Man, it's been a long time since anybody's referenced that combo to me. That's a long time ago. But you know what? What we'll never know, you and I, unless you podcast those guys and interview them, we'll never know whether that was their decision, that was their sound, and they wanted to stay in that pocket with that sound, or that was their producer and label going, you're going to stay in that sound and pocket. We'll never know. So
one band that we would know would be like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Those guys were produced. We know that.
that was prefabricated music.
Yeah. I mean, it was bubblegum pop, and it got put out there, and it's still being that way, except now it's coming from international sources. So,
hey, nobody can deny there's always been room for music that appeals to adolescents. And the Monkees were prefab.
mm-hmm.
They were a prefab combo, and they had a few good songs. The Partridge Family. I mean, I remember being a young kid watching that. It was prefab. That I haven't gotten to a point in my life where I'm so cynical that I can't see that, that there's something, like you mentioned the Backstreet Boys. Remember their song, I Want It That Way?
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrific song,
mm-hmm.
man. That's a great song. And so, I think where I do get a little cynical, Donna, is when artists become oversaturated, when it becomes so ubiquitous that all they're doing is talking about this particular artist, and that's when I sort of have a rebellious streak of
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this. And I can name several large artists over the years where their oversaturation into the marketplace, they became so huge, so ubiquitous that
well
turned against them.
Well, let's think. Okay, here's one that you can say, and they're from the 70s. Kiss. Now, my sound guy likes Kiss. He liked Kiss a lot. It was his band back in the day. But even he is now making a joke with his friends about the fact that Kiss is on their farewell tour. He's just like, yeah, okay. And when will the next farewell tour be? Because they just keep.
Hey, man, those old boys like doing what they do.
Oh,
that's
I know.
That's what they are.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, they're an example of something that in its day was just so big, so hyped. Hey, Michael Jackson and Madonna are other examples of it. Mm-hmm. And sorry, Swifties, I think you're getting oversaturation right now of your artist. And what happens when you have oversaturation is, and overexposure is, the mystery gets drained out of the artist and the product. The curiosity gets drained out of it. And there needs to be, it's almost like saturation of an artist is almost like a farm field where It has to be fallow for some period of time to leave you wondering, what's going on? I wonder what's going on with that art. That's a healthy thing. And um, the needs, and this is, I think, fostered by the marketing side of the music industry, the needs of the record company, the needs of the publishing company, the needs of the advertising agencies that represent those people is to generate revenue. So they got to keep them out in the marketplace and in the limelight every day, every week, getting another story. After a while, man.
I mean, the prime example of this is Britney Spears. And the only reason I say this is we, as a collective, I'm not meaning you or me, but we as a collective, we're sitting there clamoring, we need more Britney. We need more Britney. Oh, her and Justin broke up. Well, we need this more Britney. We need this about Britney. And then the paparazzi ate and they fed and they fed. And I can only imagine the stress. And I often attribute it to being on a pedestal. And what do we like to do with people on pedestals? You got it. So we knocked her down. And now, oh, we're all coming back to clamor. And we weren't bad. We didn't say anything bad. We love Britney. We're supporting Britney again. And I
Yeah,
see
that's
that
the
I see that kind of with Taylor Swift. It's like we are putting her so far up on a pedestal. When is the fall? And I hate to say it, we haven't seen the fall with the Kardashians, which I wish we would. But when do we see that?
yeah, I can't speak for everybody, and I certainly I'm casting no aspersions
No,
against Taylor Swift and
no,
her art
no.
because hey, all these people aren't wrong, okay? There's some love and there's obviously a quality artist right there. But I think there is a media cycle that and a public cycle that you talk about, which is building people up to knock them down and eventually to get back on for the big comeback cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know. The one thing I want to add to all this is big artists and big media topics. They've never fascinated me. It's no mystery that what I seek is a small bite of the cracker because I always feel that there's something there's so much music out there, there's so much art out there, and some people are mass media consumers. Most people are. I'm not so interested in those people. I never was as a listener and a buyer. So for me, people having the topic of conversation about stuff that's available for mass consumption, not that fascinated by it. Never was, never am. The stuff that lives under the surface, the stuff that is small and creating its own legacy and its own interest level and identity. I think that's where the more fascinating music is. Whether we're talking about Ray LaMontagne or Dawes or, there's so many other great artists and bands out there that are worthy of attention. I think that those are the stories I prefer to cover.
Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he had written a book about the preacher saves us from the second coming. And the fact is, we got into a conversation about cults. And the only reason I bring this up is when you're talking about the mass marketing of music and everything else, you're almost talking a cult of personality because we've created this personality and this persona that people have to gravitate to and they want to gravitate to. And nothing wrong with Taylor. I'm not saying, I was not disparaging her,
No, I know
but
you
but
won't.
but even like the Kardashians, we keep mass producing these different shows. I've never watched a Kardashian episode, but we keep producing these episodes. And I mean, I scroll through, I follow Rolling Stone on my phone, and here's the Kardashians, and people are like, why is this here? Why don't you have something else? And I mean, I'm not at a certain point, this is where we have to really pay attention. If you're constantly consuming mass marketed stuff, and you're missing out on real stuff, you're kind of falling into a cult line. And that's, you're not being a free thinker. That's where I guess I'm going with that, is you need to be more open, so you don't always have to see what's going on with this person. You can actually experience life on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point there, and there. I think that I think that we could say that if we were a pie shop, Matt, stuff that's made and appeals to mass consumers is an apple pie, and maybe what we are is a little more exotic
A
pie flavor. Maybe
boysenberry
we're pumpkin pie,
or boysenberry.
or gooseberry pie
Yeah.
or something. You know what?
Yeah.
We're a flavor that you know, we're not for mass consumption.
Oh,
We're for people that have a little bit more refined taste.
once again, that goes to the maturity level.
Hey, but it's all cool, man. It's not an us versus them. It's
No,
understanding our place, whether you're Donna Needham's podcast or Dave Lebental's music. It's understanding our place in the universe and being
exactly.
okay with it, man.
Yeah.
It's like it's all cool, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And by the way, if I had, 1 billion followers, would I be a happier or a better person?
No.
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 Would it make my music better? No. You know, the creativity and the art is at the end of the day what I'm really into and what really matters. Sharing it is a beautiful thing, but being obsessed with sharing it, and trying to monetize it, that's a major draw away from the art and away from the performance.
Very, very true. And that's the thing, when you're talking about social media, about it taking about an hour to go through your comments. If you're posting on every platform, which I don't, it takes, to create the content and then edit the content and then put it up there. You're talking a half hour to an hour just to do that. And that's not even
Yes,
handling responses and everything.
yes,
And so
yes.
it gets to be a job in itself, and people don't look at that.
Well, you know what? There's moments when I'm dealing with it when I'm like, oh, I need to deal with this. I need to do it, and that'll flip a switch. That's kind of the job mentality,
Mm-hmm.
and I catch myself and I go, no, no, no. This is a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
This is a privilege because these people like your music. These people want to touch you. They want to let you know. They want to give you a comment. Your ability to reach back to this person wherever they are through social media and acknowledge them, that's a privilege.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a mass media figure, I mean, how can they possibly do it? It just doesn't scale. But for me, it still scales, and I still like it. And I feel I honestly I feel gratitude for it.
Well, then there's the people that create fake accounts and say they're such and such, that they're reaching out to you. Not me, but I've had a couple, and I knew right off the bat they're not. They're like, "Oh, I'm Rick Springfield. I'm such and such." It's like, no, you're not. Just block, delete, whatever. Goodbye, Michael DeBar.
Thank,
Yeah.
Thanks for tipping me off to that. I haven't gotten to
Oh
to that
yeah,
moment yet.
you
Yeah.
and you have to be careful, because, especially because as you gain more followers, people are going to scam your account. That's why a lot of people
Yeah,
that
I'm a
have more
little.
followers do the verification, because they will scam your account.
Yeah, it's concerning. These are the problems, with becoming, something other than
Mm-hmm.
a small creative artist. But I just, you know, I just think being a small creative artist is a beautiful thing in and of itself. And I hope people that watch your podcast will listen to my music and see if they can connect with it, see if they enjoy it, and you know, dig the vibe and dig the songs, and you know, because you know the art of what I'm trying to do lives apart from any of the other
Traffics.
marketing and mass media and all that. Yeah, that stuff's boring.
So, is there anything that we did not discuss that you would like to add?
Let me reach over and show you this.
Okay. Oh, nice.
This
Nice.
is my LP, the long player.
Nice. And what does that feel like to hold that in your hands? Nice.
I love it because when I was a kid, when I first started really getting into music, I was buying albums.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this was the feeling, the tactile feeling of the
Mm-hmm.
album. And then I used to love sitting in my room and looking and reading the lyrics. So I made sure all my lyrics are in here and looking at the photos and reading the liner notes, who played what and who did what. So for me, this is coming full circle. I'm getting to produce a piece of art that has a lot in common with the art that inspired me. So I'm very happy about this. Honestly, again, in continuation with what we've been talking about, I'm a small artist, so I only pressed a limited edition number of these, and I paid a little extra to have them all numbered. So
Nice.
they will sell out. And the other thing I want to let you know is I I met with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and they listened to my record and vetted it. And all the proceeds from the sale of my record and CDs are going to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
Oh, that's awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
because it's like, um, the music and the art are why I did it. And um, to be able to have somebody purchase the record or the CD and share the art, that's enough for me. Now, what can I do that will make the art more valuable, more important? And that is to donate the money to Children's Hospital to help save the lives and the health of young children so they can live a full, cool life and do
Nice.
the things that they enjoy and dig. So it's just awesome. And by the way, we got to our first monetary goal at the CD release show. I'm hoping to sell all of these. And by the way, me and my wife, we fulfill all the orders. We put them,
Nice.
we put the bubble wrap over it, and we put the package, and I sign a little note and put it out.
Nice. So
It's awesome.
have you played at Children's at all?
I'm sorry, have I
Have
what?
you played at Children's? Have you gone over there with your guitar and played?
I'm going to do that. And I think the time to do that is when I deliver the check
Yeah.
to them
Yeah.
for all the proceeds. So I suspect that'll probably be in April.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. And so it's a really fine moment. But yeah, so it's uh, you know having an opportunity to create art and to say what I want to say in the way that I want to say it, and to put it out to people that are receptive to it. Uh, that is a dream come true. This is the dream. And honestly, I thought the dream was lost forever. I didn't think that this would come to be. Even when I first started recording some songs, I could see that it was an album. I could hear it, but I couldn't quite visualize that I would go this far and stamp up a vinyl gatefold album. It's like
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
I know. I trust me. I understand that feeling. I understand that feeling
So,
because it's an
um,
amazing thing. And congratulations on it.
well, thank you, Donna. And it's like thank you so much for inviting me to talk about music and life with you and art and congratulations on your show and the success
Thank you.
that you're having and how people are recognizing that you're a forum worthy of their attention.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on.
You know it.
You might have heard my voice hosting the Better Two podcast, but did you know I'm also the mastermind behind the Better to Burnout book series? The stories unravel the lives of Nigel Hartigan, the groovy bassist of Sambuca Fedora, the stunning singer model Ava Richards, and the suave record executive singer Russell Langford. Love, romance, and drama run rampant as their lives tangle up. But brace yourself, folks, because not every tale has a happy ending. Snag your copy today from most online booksellers. So the conversation with Dave was in certain aspects, I don't want to offend anybody. So if our comments about Swifties or Kardashians or prefab pop bothered anybody, I do apologize. I have no offense or want no harm to anybody. It was just the fact that for me, when I'm thinking about it's the whole Britney Spears thing. We have put Miss Taylor Swift, on a pedestal, and no one thinks about the pressure that is put on somebody that is on that pedestal. When you are perceived as perfect and you have the ideal relationship and everything is created by what is being seen and what is being pushed and nobody can get enough of you, as Dave said, it becomes oversaturation. And at what point do we want to retaliate? When going back to Live Aid real quick, at the time of Live Aid, Madonna was having a huge career push. So much of a huge career push that somebody bought nudes of her from when she was a starving artist. And she took these nude shots because at the time she was trying to make ends meet. Well, now she had a name to herself. And the owner of Penthouse Magazine bought her pictures. And here she is, the new star, the big, she's got her second album out. She's at Live Aid, which is a huge deal. And when she came out, because I was on the floor at this point, when she came out, everybody was clamoring. All the photographers were clamoring, and people were like, take it off. Not me, but a lot of the people in the crowds were chanting this. And she looks out at the crowd and she's on the microphone and she just says really loudly, I'm not taking shit off. So at a certain point, this expectation and the demotion of who she was because of these photos, now there's a scandal. So we're starting to chip that away. And same thing happened to Vanessa Williams. She was Miss America and she had to give up her title because somebody took those pictures. When she was an artist or she was struggling, she did those pictures. And I know somebody's sitting here saying, well, she should have never did the pictures. Well, this is true. That's a possibility. But when you're starving and you want food on the table, you're going to do what you got to do. My whole point, though, is Vanessa Williams, she had this whole thing about being Miss America. She was the first Black Miss America. This was a big thing. And then we diminish it. We diminish her success because of the scandal. So my point here is, at what point do you guys turn on Taylor? And I'm not wishing that for her. God knows I don't wish that for her. But at what point does the tide turn? Because the media always has a way of doing that. They always have a way of creating a scandal when there is none. And as I was talking about Britney earlier, I mean, people, oh my God, look at Britney. She was holding that kid the way she was holding that kid and driving the car. Imagine a swarm of people running after you. And I think that's one thing we have to look at. And I mentioned this a couple episodes back. When we mass market things, when we get this cult of personality, at what time do the people lose being a person and they're a commodity? And we see them as a commodity, maybe not us as an individual, but whoever is posting the content, whoever's creating the narrative, who's ever creating what we're seeing, and not looking at the real person. So while this is great and it's awesome, and I know you're like, well, what about Dave? There is a tie into Dave, though. And as a younger person, you look at Taylor and you think, gosh, I wish I could be like her. She's got everything. And she looks happy. But as a younger person, there's a lot of trappings that go with what she's going through. And Dave said that if he would have stayed where he was and if he would have got to be a little bit bigger, that he might have succumbed to those trappings. So when you think of all the pressure that is put on somebody that is in the public eye, that is constantly being pushed, And you think of that couple, and I know everybody's like, oh, I hope they get married. I hope this and that. That's awesome. But sometimes all that pressure blows up a relationship. So you have to really think about, while you love seeing them and you love all that attention and all that attraction, when do they get to be real? When do they get to have alone time? When do they get to go to a restaurant by themselves and not have somebody bother them? And yeah, I know they have security and everything else, but at what point does their life get taken off the microscope? And Dave, this is how I'm going back to Dave. Dave doesn't have to worry about that. Dave gets to make the music he wants to do. He gets to be the artist he wants to be. And he gets to celebrate his success in his own way. He doesn't have the pressure of fame, of the media. And I'm not saying that that's, that the pressure is the bad thing. But at a certain point, when we decide that somebody is deemed the it factor, Marilyn Monroe, what point do they lose themselves? What point can they not keep up with the idol that everybody has seen you as and not see you as the real person? They see what is manufactured, what you've put out there, what you've created, but they're not looking at the authentic person. So Dave gets to be authentic. He gets to be him. And as a younger man, he might have let the trappings get him. But now with wisdom, he sees that he gets to do what he wants to do, and he gets to be passionate about his art. And I would tell any creative, while fame might be wonderful and certainly money is great, sometimes it's great just to be able to create what you want and to say what you want and to put your message out there to people that respect it and love it and not have all the trappings. So on that note, I'd like to thank Fast Susie for their music, the intro and outro song as always. And I'd like to thank Rich Zei from 30 Year Audio for doing the audio production of the podcast. Dave, I'm glad came on, and I thank him as well. And he will most likely come back for a second interview when his next record comes out. So whenever you decide to listen to the podcast, know that I appreciate you. I know it's a lot to ask, and sometimes an episode of the podcast may not be what you want to listen to. But when you tune in, it's much appreciated. And I want to thank you for that. And whenever you're listening, like I said, it means a lot. So on that note, guys, I will catch you next time. Take care. Bye.